Before we get into you in creating content, let's just get into like your story. How'd you get into death care? Did you grow up in the business? Is this what you wanted to do your whole life?
No, I'm a first generation owner. My grandmother passed away in 1999. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I was going to Youngstown State, and my grandfather knew the funeral home owner at the time where she was at. And I was curious about behind the scenes of death care, and I got a part-time job there. And took some getting used to at first. I remember running the vacuum after calling hours. And I'm like, oh my goodness, there's dead body there. Get me out of here, And but after you know being in the business and enjoying it, I thought that it could be a good ministry to help people during the difficult times. So decided to go to Cincinnati Mortuary School and worked my way up. Worked for several funeral homes. Moved out of the area and came back to Youngstown, Ohio, and always wanted to own my own and made it happen here 6 years ago.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you the question that I ask every CCMS graduate. Is Cincinnati Mortuary College the premier mortuary school on the planet?
Absolutely. It's the Harvard of mortuary schools. I get a lot of flack around here because Pittsburgh's closer to us. We're right at the border. So, when people hear I went to CCMS, they want to fight me on it. But no, definitely premier education. I enjoyed my time there, learned a lot. And, like a lot of these funeral homes, they're passed down to generation. I was coming into this green. I had no idea about embalming. I've never really embalmed. I watched some embalming, and they really embraced me there through the labs. And I actually won the award at graduation for the most improved embalmer. So kudos to them for
Wow.
coaching me along.
They did you a solid, man.
Yeah,
Did you a
yeah, that's
solid.
right.
What are your thoughts on CCMS combining with Xavier and kind of moving
Yeah.
into being a part of Xavier University?
Yeah, kind of going back to where it all began. I mean, I understand, that that's a tough business decision, and you're going to get a lot of flack either way. I watched your interview, with them, and I think that they are looking for the future and what was good for the university, and I think it's going to be a good move moving forward.
I love it. I agree with you. I think it's gonna be solid. I mean, I think there's a lot of questions still need to be answered. And really only time can answer some of those things. But death care is something that if you look at the landscape of death care, the amount of mortuary college students in general has been on a massive decline. And so we've got to do something in the profession to be able to get more students into and more people wanting to be funeral directors. I think that's a bigger question, probably a whole nother podcast episode of around like the legal side of like what it takes to become a funeral director and the licensing aspect of it, and every state being a little bit different, and those sorts of things. So I think it being housed in a university actually could give the program itself more exposure. And then also give, like, I think about this, like, you went through mortuary school, but you didn't get necessarily taught how to operate a business, profit and loss, entrepreneurship. And now students will have access to those types of classes as well.
No, absolutely. I think going to like a campus per se atmosphere, I think will intrigue some people to be at a school like Xavier on campus to experience those things, the sporting events, things like that, but then also have access to a lot of these business classes that you might not have had at CCMS that kind of gives you that well-rounded education.
Yeah, I think it's great. Awesome. Okay, so first generation, you go to CCMS, you start working at the funeral home that you currently own. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I went to CCMS. I worked for another funeral home in the greater Youngstown area for about 4 years, served my internship there. And then I decided to switch things up, change the scenery. I moved to Virginia Beach and started selling preneat. Worked the whole state of Virginia, working for a PFP marketing company for funeral homes. Was $1 million producer with homesteaders, and really kind of gave me the experience, well-rounded experience of being in the funeral business, understanding pre-need, being boots on the ground. And I always had the desire to own my own business, and kind of went away for a while. I was content where I was at in my life and kind of put that aside. And funny, my grandfather died, who the one that got me into this business, and it got me thinking about the importance of family and life, and living out of a suitcase traveling Virginia. And my parents are getting older, and I'm like, maybe I should look at moving back to Ohio. Prayed about it, and I got a job where I started I had my apprenticeship. They took me back and worked there for 4 years. And then the bug started getting back to me. My wife has a family business, and I just started seeing that. And I'm like, you know what? I really want to do this. I have an entrepreneurial spirit. Like, let me just put some feelers out, send some letters to some firms that maybe they didn't have heirs. And Stark Memorial has been a fixture in Salem, Ohio for years, and sent him a letter, didn't hear back. I worked on him for 4 years, and that pre-need experience helped me to close the deal. Like, multiple funeral homes try to buy this, like conglomerates, SCI, other local firms, and they just kind of gave up on the guy because he just didn't want to sell. Like, he wanted to be here till he died. So I just stayed after him for 4 years, and 4 years calling, being persistent, and closed 6 years ago. So that's kind of my story on how this all happened. I was just always wanting to have it, and was a go-getter, and didn't take no for an answer.
It's interesting to me that you went to mortuary school, then worked for a pre-need marketing company after mortuary school. Like, what are some of the things you felt like you picked up working for a pre-need company that now have big value in what you're doing as a funeral director?
Well, ultimately, the future of your business is pre-need, and I've been able to implement that with a strong marketing, direct mail, and lunch and learns that they didn't really have before. And that experience, to understand how that works, and understanding what it takes to get that $1 million producer in the hiring process, knowing what I'm looking for my advanced funeral planner. So that also taught me, to budget. I mean, most pre-need counselors are living paycheck to pay, they're on straight commission. So understanding that structure of budgeting, in my business, saving money for a rainy day, don't spend it all at once. So those are things that when I was straight commission, that I had to do, that now I can implement in my business.
It's great. That's great. I love it. It's such a cool background. And I mean, learning that foundation, I think the follow-up aspect of it you talked about with buying the funeral home, like how many times I talk to funeral directors daily where we're driving leads for them, and it's like, yeah, I picked up the phone and called and no one answered. That was a junk lead. And they just give up when really the persistence will pay off if you just keep having touches, keep having touches. And I think that's a lot of the value of social. And I don't want to get into the big marketing
Yeah.
conversation yet. There's some more we need to learn about Dan Madden before we get into Dan the Funeral Man. But like the persistent touch with the consumer over and over and over and over, we discredit the value of that, especially in a follow-up conversation around pre-planning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're not going to get yes most of the time. The first time, second time, third time, it's going to be the fourth, fifth, even longer. And like you said, I mean, I could have very easily gave up, like a lot of these other people that wanted to buy him out. And I wanted it so bad that I wasn't just going to take no for an answer. And it really, uh, in everyday life, running a business, you run into obstacles, people telling you no all the time, whether it's, pre-planning, or just in every business, you're going to run through these obstacles, and just not giving up, and staying the course, and just keep the foot on the gas, and good things are going to happen eventually.
You had said earlier, and I want to touch on this because it relates to me, like obstacles. You said that when the move from Virginia back to Ohio, you and your wife prayed about it. Tell me about
Yeah.
your faith and how how ingrained that is into your business, but also just your everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I couldn't do anything in this life without Jesus. And, he directs my paths like it talks about in the Bible. And at the time I felt like I should move. I found a good solid church there. And, it was a good, I have life friendships that I got in Virginia Beach, but ultimately, here is my home and my family. I wasn't married at the time when I was at Virginia Beach, and I came back and then met my wife and got married. Been married 10 years now, but yeah, no, it's running a business and knowing that there's going to be hard times and you're going to be wrestling with a lot of decisions, and knowing that I have Jesus to trust and get me through the ups and downs of life and business is means everything.
I was in a conversation with an entrepreneur the other day who said Jesus is the CEO of all of my companies, and I said because we were talking about the hardships, the ups and the downs. I mean, like business
Mm,
isn't always rainbows and sunshine, right? Like there's all these ebbs and flows and cash flow in, cash flow out, like, and there's things that we worry about. Pe Losing employees, getting new
uh,
employees, like there's a
yeah.
lot of different worries. And I mean, this is an old head, and he goes,
Hmm.
man, he's like, Jesus has been the CEO of my companies from day one. He's like, I've never worried about any of it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, think about it. He's like, if I'm an entrepreneur, but at the same time, if Jesus is my CEO, then I actually work for him. And most employees, they don't have the same worries as the CEO. All of that junk is on the CEO. So if Jesus is CEO, I'm just going to do my job and he's going to take care of the rest of it. So I thought that was like,
Sure.
that was comforting to me, going like, okay, yeah, man, like God is in control. Like cast all your burdens on me, cast all your
Hmm.
cares, all your worries, all your,
Yeah.
hey, this person left, how are we going to handle it? You and I were swapping
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
devotionals back and forth this weekend, just because like for me, like Jesus is my testimony, man. Like I'd have got nothing in this life without Jesus. So when did you become a Christian?
Yeah. So I've been a Christian ever since I can remember. My uncle was a pastor, so I mean, I grew up in the church. My mom always bringing me Wednesday, Sunday night, Sunday morning. But it truly became real to me, probably, high school, and we kind of go through it and, just really kind of put my complete trust in him, probably when I was like 25, and just haven't really looked back. I mean, we all kind of go through those seasons and everything, but it's life kind of brings you back. And when you feel comfortable, he always kind of brings you down and it's like, hey man, you can't walk this way without me. And you kind of get back on track, and that's how he works. And like you said, I mean, I read a devotional this morning, kind of going through some turnover and things like that. And it's like, and I'm worried about like, how am I going to find somebody where these interviews, and he's like, be anxious for nothing and everything, trust and prayer and application. And it's like, I've got this. I take care of the birds of the air. They don't worry about food. And it's like, I've got it. Don't worry about the end. Like, just walk with me, and it all work out. So it's
Yeah,
encouraging.
I heard a pastor say this weekend. He said, what do you say? He said, you can control what you can control, and everything else,
Mhm.
like that's on God. Because if you can't control it, why are you worried about it?
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
that's fair. That's fair. So, man, I love that. It's yeah, I love hearing testimonies, and has Jesus ever let you down?
No, no, you think you sometimes get mad and like, why I wanted to do it my way. And then you realize, well, you felt like he let you down, but then as time goes on, it's like, yeah, you're right. So
Yeah, you realize your way would have been faster, but it would have led to a fiery train crash.
exactly.
That's
Exactly.
great. How do you incorporate your faith into what you do as a funeral director?
Well, I mean, as I mentioned it before, I mean, I look at being a funeral director as a ministry. At one time, I actually thought about contemplating being a pastor. I actually, went to some schools and looking it out. Even after funeral service, I thought maybe I could be called to be a pastor. And it's like, well, I have you here at this job, but you could still be a pastor and your current work. We all can. So just implementing that into my everyday work as far as being there for families and encouraging them, giving them encouraging words. I mean, I'm a certified celebrant, so I can share scriptures and pray with people in the service if they want me to do that. So it just really is a ministry in itself, taking care of people at a difficult time.
Do you feel like people find Jesus more at in situations like that of loss, or do you feel like there's more anger when you're meeting with families? I mean, because you're dealing with
Yeah.
families that like there's expected death, right? There's somebody that's
Yeah.
been sick for a while, or they're old, they're in the 90s, they've lived a great life, but then like we forget about like the tragedy that you deal with day in and day out of a newborn or
Yeah.
a 3-year-old. Like I remember one of the first funerals my father-in-law sent me on when I was working for his vault company, was a 3-week-old baby, and my daughter was 4 weeks old at the time. And he's like, this is part of the business. Like, it's not
Yeah.
just, hey, they were 95 and lived a good life and died a peaceful death. Like, you know, there's both sides of the coin. So what's that like for you as a Christian, where someone's coming in
Good.
either experiencing a death and they're like, yeah, it makes sense, or like the anger of why?
Yeah, it's a tough thing to judge. You want to have encouraging words and stuff, and I always try to stay away from like the you know God is in control comment at that time, or they're in a better place, or it all work out. Because although God is control, but that's not something you say to someone that just lost a 3-year-old, or even somebody that's 85. Like in those moments, you just have to be careful on using the church lingo and although those things are true, it's just there's a time and place, and that can come across as like insincere, or they don't want to hear those things right then. So just knowing on the right moments, and sometimes the best things to say is nothing, like I'm here for you, maybe a prayer, something like that, but just knowing when to speak and knowing when to listen or say nothing at all.
I've always struggled with like, going through a receiving line and you're talking to a family that's just lost somebody, of like what to say.
Mhm.
And I had a funeral director tell me one time, he's like, I always told people, as a funeral director, I always said sorry for your loss. And he goes, until I experienced the death of my father.
Mhm.
And he goes, I was standing at the head of a casket in a receiving line, and that's what everybody said. They said, sorry for your
Really
loss. And he's like, it all of a sudden hit me like, I know where my dad's
good.
at. I didn't lose him. I know where he went. He went to heaven, and I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
He's like, I had a lady walk through, she shook my hand and she said, man, losing your dad really sucks. And he's like, that was the most valuable thing that anybody said to me in that receiving line, because it was like they met me right where I was at. They didn't try to like paint this pretty picture that's
Mhm.
getting better. And it was just, it sucks. There's
Yeah.
no way to cut it. It sucks. Yeah. Yeah, it really blows.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that's powerful.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, for sure, and I tell my directors that too, that I really don't want us saying, people that are calling our funeral home, like, "Sorry for your loss," like, because I mean, we're a funeral, and people take that, "No, you're not," like, "You're gonna get paid for my loved one's loss," so, we try to refrain
Yeah.
from that comment as well, just, say, "Hey, how you holding up? Have they been sick long?" We're here for you, so we don't really say that either.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's good. All right, let's talk about your business a little bit. Tell me about Stark Memorial,
Yeah.
landscape of the business, size of the company. You don't just have a funeral home, you've got
Mhm.
some other entities as well. Like,
Mhm.
give us the landscape of what you're working with, what you built.
Yeah, so Stark Memorial established in 1921, a current location, but they started making caskets a little south of here in 1853. So it's pretty old, established company, and in the community. And since I purchased it 6 years ago, I mean they were a good sized firm. We've since grown the business by about 30% at Stark Memorial, and I added a crematory, Omega Cremation, where we cremate for a lot of other funeral homes as well as ourselves. And then here about 2 years ago, I launched an online cremation business that provides a more affordability option for people. Serve kind of a 65-mile radius, and that's really growing as well. So we have three entities kind of under one roof per se. We did open an office for the e-cremation business offsite. It's about 45 minutes away from where we're at here. We do. I mean, it's something that we it's supposed to be all online, but you got people that need help filling out forms. So, I mean, we probably talk to maybe 40% of the families. I mean, at some point or the other. Some need a little more hand-holding than others, but it's kind of the gist of it.
I get it on the low cost side. I understand the ability to throw in a credit card for 1995 direct cremation or
Mhm.
less. How far do you think we are away from the consumer being able to get online and feel comfortable planning without talking to anybody, a $13,000 burial package?
Yeah, that's something I haven't really seen. I mean, I've had online arrangements on my Stark Memorial site where we have burials and everything, and we really haven't had too many people going on there to check that out. We have had the direct cremation on that side, but not a full burial. I just think people are, when you're talking about a cat, they want to come in and make those arrangements. I mean, we could see that maybe in the next 5 or 10 years. I just don't know if we're there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer that we're not there yet. I don't know
Yeah.
if I honestly don't know if we ever get to the place where someone is educated enough to understand choosing a casket, choosing a vault, choosing cemetery property, paying for cash advance items, paying for the entire arrangement, like
Hmm.
everything that comes with a burial
Right.
online and just going, oh, 15 racks, yeah, here's my credit card number and never talk to
Mm.
anybody. I
Yeah.
think we're really far off on that because it's such a relational process
Mm.
with the consumer. I mean, 80% of death care arrangements are relationship driven. So there's a connection there. I fully get it on the direct cremation side. And I think do you feel that like through your direct cremation that there are families that fall through the cracks that probably didn't want direct cremation, but that was the buzzword, and so this is the process that they went through and are like, oh shoot, I wanted a memorial service or have regret later.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, that is a possibility because people aren't educated, and a lot of these families are doing it directly online. We do have those packages available, but they simply might not know what a memorial service is or things like that. Uh, it's kind of odd with this online cremation. I do think that some of them just there's a lot of maybe a strange family type situations, a lot of indigent that they really aren't going to spend 5 grand on something that they haven't talked to in 20 years. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a lot of these families that we're serving in that brand that simply are looking for the least expensive options. They are indigent, or there's a family dynamic situation there that they just want the least expensive thing possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's so interesting to me because I feel like we're gonna face another pandemic, and the pandemic is gonna be we're still kind of in the infancy of direct cremation, meaning that it direct cremation hasn't been the preferred method that long for disposition, that we see the effects of no closure.
Mhm.
So I wonder how many families have chose direct cremation because one, they weren't educated. This was a buzzword that they heard. They didn't know the full options that were available, or they had a lot of preconceived ideas about funeral homes. And so in their right mind, they're going, oh, well, direct cremation, you can't screw me. I'll have my own memorial service. I'll do my own things that they don't end
Never
up
do.
doing.
Yeah.
And then there's never closure. There's never a final viewing.
Mhm.
There's never, the finality of that death. It was just, yep, a black car came, some van picked up dad,
Mhm.
and 3 days later we got a black container
Yeah.
back and there's dad. You know, do you
Right.
feel like we're gonna run into like the grief side of it of, 10, 15 years down
Yeah.
the road where people are like, oh shoot,
Yeah.
what'd we do?
Yeah, no, I mean, we talk about it on the pre-need side, the acute loss period, to where, you have this circle, and you have your spiritual needs, emotional needs, things like that, to where when someone passes away, you call someone, dad or mom passed, but then you are missing the emotional and spiritual needs and the time of gathering needs to bring people together to share their memories and stories, and that's all part of the grieving process. And I tell people that if you don't do anything, you're gonna end up having 30, 40 mini funerals within 90 days, because you're gonna run at people in the supermarket and they're gonna say, "Oh, sorry about your mom or dad," and they're gonna hear it over and over again. Whether you just did it one time and brought everyone together, you can have that closure and get condolences at the services, not all these times throughout a certain period of time. And I think, yeah, ultimately it's going to affect the grieving process and how we grieve.
It's gonna be wild to see what happens with that, and then how we as a profession embrace those families and what solutions we come up with to provide, you know, closure. Or, I mean, the other epidemic, we talked about it at ICCFA. You watch some of the America's Got Ashes of different programs that cemeteries and funeral homes are putting together to help families that just have, I think one in
Yeah.
four cremation families have remains just on a shelf, a closet. We've
Mm.
always joked about, like, yeah, the urn goes home, it starts on the mantle, then it goes to the coffee table, then it goes to the end
Mhm.
table, and then it goes to a back bedroom, and then it ends up in a closet somewhere. No one knows where it's at. That's reality. And
Yeah.
and what are we doing to, one, circumvent that? And one of my friends, and one of you, somebody as well, a client of ours, talked about, like, hey, we can create all these programs to get people to take the urn off the shelf and bury it or scatter it, but what are we doing on the front end to even keep that from happening? Because if we're just giving back a black container, a temporary urn, and we're calling it an urn, well, we're not giving them the option to actually do anything. We're not really addressing the problem. We're not giving them something that they want to do something with. It's just like it's comparable to a trash can. So,
Mhm.
I think that there is a lot of conversation that has to happen in our profession. And so I think that I said it at ICCFA, you were on the panel of the presentation I gave, that we have a more curious consumer. So I would say the most curious consumer we've ever had around death care. But at the same time, we have the most misinformed consumer that we've ever had in death care. And so I want to move into kind of talking about that misinformed consumer and some of the things that you're doing in your business to inform the consumer. Because if we don't, and I say we collectively as a profession, if we don't, like, grab the bull by the horns and actually start talking about what it is that you do day in, day out, the value that you provide, pulling back the curtain on the process and the conversations and the questions that have to be answered, we're leaving the consumer that's insanely curious to just pop into Google, pop into
Mhm.
Chat GPT, pop into
Mhm.
Claude, and we're leaving random at chance information in the hands of the consumer where they are getting massively misinformed. So um,
Sure.
let's transition from Dan Madden owner of Stark Memorial, to DTFM,
Yeah.
Dan the Funeral Man. Regardless
Yeah.
of what you think DTFM
Yeah.
might stand for,
Yeah,
it
right.
stands for Dan the Funeral Man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What is Dan the Funeral Man, man? Come on, give it to us.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, as you said, I was always active primarily on Facebook with Stark Memorial brand and educating people for 6 years. More educational videos, a little more serious tone. And I decided to do something a little different over on TikTok. I opened a TikTok about a year ago and started doing educational videos, but then also getting a little creative, putting the fun in funeral per se, and doing the trending lip syncs and trending audios, and just making that relatable to funeral service. And it was getting some attention and comments, and so I decided about 8 months ago to convert my personal Instagram page to Dan the Funeral Man, and doing some of the same things over there. And it really is opened my eyes that people wanted something fresh, that really wasn't so stuffy for funeral home content, just getting up there doing educational, and that's all good, but making it more relatable to that generation, to getting them to have conversations about death that they didn't even know that they needed to have, and creating that dialogue to answer some questions about funeral service. And it's completely taken off here in the last 60 days.
And taking off is quite the understatement. So like I mean you're gonna be humble. I'm gonna go back to our conversations internally as
Yeah,
Disrupt Media, okay?
yeah.
I'm gonna peel back the curtain on how we talk about Dan Madden and Dan the Funeral Man. So you've been a client of Disrupt Media now for probably, I don't know, maybe 16 months, something like that,
Yeah.
a little over a year. And you've had some success on Facebook. And so I want to give everybody kind of the perspective. You've been creating content on Facebook for years prior to Disrupt
Hmm.
Media.
Yeah.
Video content, educational content. Obviously, the tactical side of how that's done has changed over the years. And so we can bring some expertise in, like, hey, if we edit it this way and if we add this hook here and we shorten it from 2.5 minutes to 60 seconds or 45 seconds, we can get this digest. So like there's a tactical side to it, but like you said, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So let me break this down. Like Facebook is your buyer. Facebook is your 55 plus, ready to come in and pre-plan, ready to have a conversation, potentially in an at-need scenario for themselves, a loved one, somewhere in that 90-day period, end of life, potentially. Then you have Instagram, which is a slightly younger demographic that is more entertainment driven, that is more curious, meaning I'm not ready to buy a funeral right now. I'm not ready to walk into, Stark Memorial and pre-plan. I'm more of a global audience, less of a localized audience. It's harder to kind of localize Instagram than it is Facebook, where Facebook, we can go, hey, we want to target everybody within a 15-mile radius over 55. They like these things, they buy these, like you get really, really targeted. Instagram's a little bit different. There's some more viability around Instagram Reels, stories. It's a different network, younger demographic, but also, it's that 30 to 40-year-old adult son or daughter that's going to be engaging with Instagram. Maybe not a decision maker. They're not in the position yet where they're pushing mom and dad to make arrangements or have those conversations. And TikTok, you've got a complete generation of just like freaking entertain me. I'll engage with anything that entertains me. And you found an individual lane in each one of these outlets that's really intriguing. There hasn't been another funeral professional that we've worked with that's been able to carve out a lane that is different on every single one of these platforms, and also build a following, an engaged following of different demographics across these channels, because you don't post everything you put on Instagram on TikTok. You don't put everything you put on TikTok on Instagram. And you definitely don't put everything on from Instagram and TikTok on Facebook. Now, we've had a lot of dialogue of like, hey, I think if we restructure this Instagram post and put it on Facebook, we could have good success. I think what you found is
Mhm.
the Facebook audience, when it comes to things that stretch their comfort, are more watchers than they are engagers, and there's value in the brand awareness. Instagram, bro, they're gonna hop in and engage on Instagram and be like, DTFM is the
Yeah.
man. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, Dan, give me more, give me more.
Yeah.
Where do I buy this? Like, how do I get my hands on a leopard urn?
Mhm.
And we'll talk about some of that. And then
Yeah.
TikTok, you've got your haters on TikTok. You've got your lovers on TikTok. You've got the generation of like, yeah, if I lived in Ohio, Dan, you would be my
Yeah.
funeral director. So, like, tell me the evolution that you've experienced in what, from your perspective, you've seen on each platform individually.
Yeah, so, we'll start with TikTok because that was the first one that I created that I started getting the traction. And, like you said, I mean, much younger demographic. And, will I serve these families right now? No, but, I'm starting since now TikTok has the local FYP. They added that. People have already, oh, you're from my hometown, so these people, we said this. I mean, we said the same with, I mean, how long did it take for funeral homes to get on Facebook? So like I'm there already on TikTok in 10, 15 years when these people are making these decisions, I'm already engaged for 10 years in their brain. So that's was my thinking with that. And then ultimately to Instagram, it was, I was starting to get a lot of more local people with that. And it's, I mean, we had this discussion. I mean, I remember it's like it was yesterday. I'm like, man, I don't understand what's going on. I feel my content's good, and I'm like, I put a lot of time in these trending audios and lip syncs and everything else, and it's like, why am I not getting these views? And I just like you're like, stay the course. It's gonna pop off here, and one day, I brought up my baby here, the butterfly urn, and it's it was a trending audio, a fashion walk, and I'm like, hey, this is gonna go one or two ways. People are gonna hate it, and they're gonna be like, what's this funeral guy doing, making fun of people dying and walking out with an urn, or people are gonna love it. And I'm like, I'll just delete the video if they hate it, and I'm just gonna embrace this, and walked out, and the comments just went bananas, and everybody wanted to continue it. We need more urns. So I did like 3 videos, like the runway walk that day, that week. And it became this big production called the Fashion Urn Show. And it's a weekly show every Monday at noon. And it's launched into people wanting to buy these urns. Like I never knew that, because I mean, well, you might have been asking me this, but I'm just going off here, that people would be so eager to buy an urn or want to talk about their end of life as quick as they wanted to, because it's never been presented like this. As far as I've never seen a funeral director walk on a runway with trendy music to an urn. And now I'm doing casket walks because people are saying, hey, you got caskets? Yeah, I'll bring a pink casket out. I've just brought an old Barney reclaimed oak out. Like, okay, I'm listening to people in the comments what they want to see, and it's opening up to these conversations where I'm shipping urns all over the world, and they could go buy on the internet somewhere else, but they want to buy for me. I had no idea that I was going to be selling urns. I didn't do this to sell urns in Australia, but like they trust me, they want to work with me. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm opening an urn store. Like, I mean, what am I going to do?
So you said I want to hit on that for a second. We've been, as you've been talking, we've been showing,
Yeah.
just like we've been running through some clips of like the fashion
Yeah.
walk. And so like
Yeah.
I have two questions. I don't want to miss this word.
Yeah.
I want to go to this word. For you said trust. Trust. Tell me about trust and how you feel you've been able to build trust and what that looks like with the consumer.
So I'm able to build trust is because I think that they're trusting me immediately because they have this vision in their mind what a funeral director is supposed to look like, and maybe past experience of maybe of a funeral experience that they've had. People have sent me messages in the comments, and the comments are at a whole nother level. I mean, it's times it's a lot put in the content, and I read these comments and I'm like, people like look forward to my posts and videos, and I'm getting them through difficult times from my content. And it's like, wow, like, so like people are trusting me because I broke down those barriers and made death relatable to them. They're like, I'm putting in my will that I'm getting my urn and funeral from you. I'm like, well, you better tell somebody else or pre-plan or do something, because the will isn't going to be read till long gone after you're buried or cremated or whatnot. So you better get that in place now. But no, it's just breaking down those barriers that they immediately trust me from what they thought death looked like, or what the experience in their mind thought it would look like. And they're just like, I want this guy to handle my services or cremation or urn. It's totally mind-boggling that it's taken off like this.
I all right. We have to say there is so much gold in this from a just the application standpoint. And I want to throw shade on some funeral directors for a second, because I'm sure you've gotten hate from
Mhm.
other funeral directors. It, at any point, has any consumer said to you, Dan, do you realize how undignified it is what you're doing?
Well, if I'm completely honest, I mean, there has been a couple, but overall, no. I mean, it's all been positive, and like you said, I mean, I have gotten some messages, primarily LinkedIn, and a little bit, a couple of Instagram messages from funeral professionals that didn't really think it was tasteful, presenting like this.
Yeah, why? Well, but like, are they ever going to get a funeral from you? So who freaking cares? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it blows my mind that we'll throw shade on other funeral directors. And here's what I believe. I believe in death care, we throw around the word dignified like candy. It's like trick or treat with the word dignified. And we use the word dignified to stand behind our own insecurities of, man, I would never do what Dan's doing. I don't have that personality. I'm not brave enough to do it. I can't have my balls kicked in by people on the internet that might say something negative. It's going to hurt my feelings. So I'm going to go, hey, Dan, that's undignified. And I don't think you should do that because of my own insecurities. There's no one in death care has
Mhm.
ever been able to define for me what the word dignified actually freaking means, because we throw it in taglines, we throw it in hooks on a video, we throw it in articles, we put it all over our freaking
Mhm.
website. And I can't imagine that a family's ever gone, you know what, Dan, we chose Stark Memorial because we felt like you were the most
Mhm.
dignified funeral home in Stark County.
Mhm.
Get the frick out of
Yeah.
here, man. Like, you've gone like, okay, I'm not gonna stand behind dignity and compassion and service, because at the end of the day, the consumer doesn't expect to walk into any funeral home
Mhm.
and not get compassionate care and
Right.
quality service. Like, that is
Yeah.
a expectation. You said the word trust, and here's and you got there, but I want to make this point. Like, the consumer trusts you because you're willing to talk about it, period. Like, you haven't done
Mhm.
anything like wild and crazy to where you're like, you didn't send them money and be like, hey, trust me. You didn't show up at their mom's funeral and do the services for free. Hey, trust me. No, you gave them the information that nobody else was willing to give them. And you've presented it in a way that is in line with what they
Mhm.
already digest. And I think that
Mhm.
that is the thing that we've missed so much in death care, is that we want to push all of this stuff on the consumer, whether it's through a PDF download, a brochure, a compassion driven message on a billboard, or these absolutely crappy, terrible 30-second commercials that are a drone that flies through the
Mhm.
front door. We see a chapel, we slow pan an arrangement room with an old gray haired couple sitting there, and then we go,
Mhm.
serving this community for 137 years and 94 generations, and we'll be here the next
Yeah.
94. boom,
Yeah.
logo.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a freaking rip. What does that
Yeah.
tell me about what you actually do and how you're going to help my family? Nobody cares. You've been able to go, this is an urn. This
Yeah.
is an urn wrapped in
Yeah.
leather print.
Yeah.
And so if you
Yeah.
love leather, this, oh, and by the way, I'm going to wear some leather print shoes to
Yeah.
go along
Yeah.
with the urn.
Yeah.
So, like, I applaud what you've been able to do. I applaud, like, I hung out with you for three
Yeah.
days in
Yeah.
Fort Worth at
Yeah.
ICCFA,
Yeah.
and I walked away going, like, this guy has no shame. Like,
Yeah.
you are willing to just go, like, yeah, this is who I am. I'm comfortable in the middle of an aisleway with
Yeah.
a bunch of people watching me.
Yeah.
Just, I'm gonna roll out a red carpet.
Yeah.
I'm setting up some robes. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
urn guy, give me an
Yeah,
urn.
yeah,
Let
I
me
get a
show you how
Bates
this
Pro,
is
I'm like,
done.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, man, I did like 4 Fashion Urn shows right at, ICCF at Way 4. I'm looking forward to doing them at NFDA for sure, but yeah, no, I mean and it's one thing I just embraced it, and that in this Dan the Funeral Man, I kinda kept I mean, had the handles for about a year, and I kinda kept it secret from, like, my community, like, in a sen and Stark Memorial, like, I wasn't, like, publicizing it because I'm like, "I don't know, like, how my local market is gonna feel about this," like, but, I kinda went viral, and it made the news, and so everyone was gonna know about it anyway, so I completely embraced it, like, "This is who I am. I'm Dan the Funeral Man at Stark Memorial." Like, I provide education, I have a little fun. If you don't like it, then that's fine too. But most people are embracing it, and I'm getting people are calling and sending me messages all the time. So it's been fun few months.
Okay, how did the fashion, like, what prompted you to just one day wake up and you go, you know what? I'm gonna do a fashion walk. And
Yeah.
like, we've been showing clips so people get it, but you're not just like walking with an urn,
Yeah.
bro. Like,
Right. Yeah.
your hips are swaying.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
freaking Elle McPherson out there,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you got it going on. So, like, how did that, where did that idea come from,
Yeah.
and how'd
Yeah.
that just be, how was that burst?
Yeah, so a lot of my good ideas happen in the middle of the night, and I kind of jog it or write it down in my notes on my iPhone. I don't sleep much, so I'm obviously looking on Instagram for like latest trends and like the trending audios. And I came across that song, and most of the time it was a girl like strutting with the product, and I'm like, so I practice. I'm like, I'm gonna do that with an urn, and I had the idea for like a couple weeks, and we got busy and I just couldn't do it. Like we got families to see. I can't just make the selection room my permanent runway. So I'm like, I'm going to do it. And, I practiced my walk, a couple times in the mirror and got the facial expressions going, and did it with the butterfly urn. And, it's just, I didn't really think I'd be doing this permanently, every week because, but urn companies are sending me urns weekly. I just got another box today, and, everyone wants to be featured in the show or the urn boxing. I started doing these urn boxings. And so that's kind of how this all happened.
I love it. And you've had, and so, like, the proof is in the pudding. And this is where I get in debates with funeral professionals about, I don't think the consumer really wants this. It's a bunch of bull crap. No one really cares. But there's a lot of these if you don't believe that the consumer cares about what funeral homes do and product from a funeral home, your head is so far in the sand. Like, put a for sale sign out, call somebody to buy your firm, call Dan. Dan will probably buy it and turn it into a gold mine, because you're ignoring, and the proof is in the numbers. You can't fabricate some of this stuff. So I want to read off, just, I'm gonna look back at a few of your posts on Instagram. Game night with grandma,
Yeah.
1.8 million
Yeah.
views. Um, Happy National Skilled Traders Day, and you did
Troll
an
traded.
earn.
Yeah.
It's like a toolbox,
Yeah.
23,000 views. Um, my new shipment of leopard urns came in, 117,000 views. Hold on, we're getting to some of the good stuff. Okay, here's what I appreciate, Dan. Like, you'll take things that are happening in real life and apply them to death care. And this is something that we've tried to get funeral directors to do. literally for 15 years since we've had Disrupt Media. But you did a Met Gala fashion walk with a
Yeah.
pink casket, and you said, me rolling up to the Met Gala. That was it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, we're gonna show some of these, but like, I don't think that, and I'm gonna just throw this out for you. I don't think that funeral directors understand the low budget, the low quality, the like how easy it is to just set up a phone on a tripod
Yeah.
and do this. Isn't lights, camera,
No.
action. It's you pushing a paint casket, turning it
Yeah.
sideways and
Yeah.
walking it back. 86,000 or 87,600 views. You did another Met Gala post that got 20,000 views. A baseball bat earned 28,000 views. Um, we're getting to the good one here. All right. Just before ICCFA, you did a hot pink casket. You partnered with our friends at Titan Casket, got a hot pink casket, and you did a fashion walk. Now, here's what I want to tell people. There wasn't a 19 paragraph description about the casket and 20 gauge and non-sealer, sealer this, sealer that. It literally is hot pink casket and an emoji of hot pink nails. You walk it down, 15.1 million views. And here's what I'll tell everybody. That 15 million view video is what allowed everything else that came after it to perform so well. Is you need the one at bat. And here's what it also did, because of the way the algorithm works, 15 million people consumed that video. I don't have your data in front of me, but that's hundreds, if not thousands of hours of watch time and time spent with Dan the Funeral Man, Stark Memorial, your brand, a link where people can buy product from you. Um, that circulates virally, obviously, because there's not 15 million people in Stark County, but you hit thousands of people in your local community with that organically because that's the way the algorithm works. So the algorithm takes those 15 million people, and now a lot of previous content you posted before that that didn't pop is getting views and recirculating as well. So it is a game, but man, what people listening to this are going to go, okay, great. Whoop-de-doo. You got 15 million views on a casket video and you're getting, thousands, hundreds of thousands of views on other pieces of content. Like you've posted, that was just reels. I was just looking at videos, but you posted a picture of a pink casket with
Yeah.
leopard interior the other day. They got 3.5 million
Yeah.
views in 24
Yep.
hours. You posted this morning a red casket with leather interior.
Yeah.
You don't actually have a red casket with leather interior.
No.
You've AI this.
Yeah.
You work with our team to create some of this content, and you have the ability, though, if you wanted a red casket with
Yeah. I
leather
can get it.
interior, to get it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
crazy thing.
Yeah, that's the thing, like someone in the comment, oh, AI, boo. Well, it's like, it doesn't change the fact that I can get it in 48 hours. I could still get a red casket with, or pink casket with leather interior. I just did it quick. I'm like, people in the comments want it pink with leather interior. I'm going to do it, put the prompt in. And this is the way that you can use technology to your advantage. And it got 3.5 million views. This is a picture, not a video, not me doing a dance. This is a picture of a casket that people want. And I talked to, other companies that we work with, and it's like, why don't you use our casket? Well, do you have a hot pink casket? No. Okay. Well, that's why I didn't use it. So, I mean, people are wanting different, and we are able to get it. So
I'm going to stand on this, and I've stood on this since I worked. I mean, I cut my teeth in death care 22 years ago with Wilbert. I said, and I'll stand on it, and I believe it. And you're proving me right and proving me why we need to go the other direction with what you just said. I've always said that we've built product and manufactured product in this profession not based on what the consumer wanted. We based it on what we thought the funeral director would be willing to sell. So we're not building hot pink caskets because there's not a lot of funeral directors that are going to go, you know what, I think I'm going to show a hot pink casket, but they'll show a bronze blah 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 976134 because they're comfortable with it. That's what you just said is the reason I didn't use your casket is because you don't have a hot pink casket. Why? The consumer wants more options. We work with Titan Casket Company. Titan casket has pink, purple, blue, red,
Yellow.
orange,
Yeah.
yellow, green, like every color under the sun. They'll do it in 48 hours, and the consumer wants it. The consumer begs for it. You're proving you're proving the point that we have for so long ignored what the consumer wanted, and we've told the consumer what they need.
No, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what we did. And I am just listening to people in the comments. I mean, it's hard to respond to all these people because the comments are overwhelming. But the reason I posted the red picture, is because the comments saying we wanted a red casket with leopard interior and gold hardware. Well, guess what? I'll turn that around. We can do it. And so that's why I put that out there. So, I mean, you got to listen to the consumer and what they wanted. I have an urn that it has never, as far as I know, is the first prototype ever in the world coming this week. And I'm going to reveal that. And it's going to be on the runway soon. But you thought the leopard was hot. This one's going to be really hot. And it's going to go bananas.
Okay. I don't know. Is bananas a hint? You
No,
giving us a hint?
no, no, no.
Okay. All right. So there's gonna be okay, all the haters watching this, all the funeral directors like, so what? Dan got 15 million views. I bet he's like doing 6 calls a year. So he's got time to do all this. We're a real funeral home. We
Hmm.
serve thousands of families and we don't have time. What has not only just in the last 8 months of you being Dan the Funeral Man, in the last three
Yeah,
months of the
yeah.
viral content, but over the last couple years of you just embracing building a brand for your funeral home online, dominantly looking at social media as the outlet of how you engage
Hmm.
your community, what has it done for your business? From like, you don't have to
Hmm.
give real dollar
Yeah.
amounts, but like, how have you grown your business? What has it done for you? And then currently, oh, I bet he's not even selling any urns. Let's move
Yeah.
into that piece,
Yeah.
but take me back to
Yeah.
the beginning of like just building.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wouldn't be where I'm at today, 6 years after owning a funeral home, if I didn't aggressively get online and do video content. All funeral homes, now probably have a Facebook page and they're posting the generic contents, only posting on holidays and things like that. They're never doing video content. And that's fine. If you're my competitor, keep doing that. But, it really, you need to show your face. People know me before they come in the door because they've seen me so much on social media, and you're building trust. And it's really helped me grow the business 30%. And also on the pre-need aspect through lead generation and people reaching out online for pre-need. So it really is important to be posting regularly. I mean, 3, 4 times a day is, I mean, start with one, but, I try to do a couple a day. And as far as what it's doing now, this has gone to a completely another level with brand awareness in my community. What is this, going viral going to do? I mean, I've been on local news a couple times. I'm running a big feature morning news show this week that people are talking about in the community. I'm getting invited to speak to Chamber of Commerce that they usually get 6 people, and 20 of them are signed up tomorrow. So I'm getting invited to speak at local Rotaries. I'm getting just a podcast like this, and nationally. I got invited to speak, or they're running a story. My first gossip magazine, the biggest one in Australia, wants to run a story for me. And speaking of Australia, I've shipped urns to Australia. I'm shipping urns across the world. I've sold 12 urns. I'm selling merch. People want to buy my shirt, and that's fine. I didn't think I'd be showing merch, but the urns, I'm selling a couple a day here lately, and it's pretty mind blowing. But people are wanting authenticity and different, and that's what this platform is doing.
And I would say, like, just selling the urns is icing on the cake because it's building your local business. So
Yeah.
Like it's extra money.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
great.
exactly. It's one of these things, it didn't cost me anything. I mean, it's costing me a little bit. I had to get a website for fashionurns.com and, a little more, it's costing me a little bit, but the recognition that I'm getting in my local community, I might not see that now at Stark Memorial, but it's starting to happen. And people are wanting me to do their funeral in Kentucky. You don't think someone's going to drive 30 minutes to come have me do their funeral in Salem, Ohio? So I think long term, I in the next 5 years, this is going to be huge.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love that you're just embracing it. And so I selfishly have to ask this question, and then I've got one more thing I
Yeah,
wanna get into as we start to wrap
yeah,
up. I sound like a preacher. Like as I
yeah,
continue to close, point three.
yeah, yeah.
Um, what you've been partnered with Disrupt for almost a year and a half. Like what is that partnership brought to Stark Memorial, Dan the Funeral Man? Like what's
Mhm.
that meant to you? What's the value been?
Yeah, no, the value is huge. I mean, I was a little different, like than maybe some of your clients that
Mhm.
just have no experience with content
Right.
and, making videos. And I mean, I could do all that, but to know that I have that partnership to where your team can focus on, the Facebook side and, helping me with content, setting up those monthly meetings and content ideas. And also, the lead generation videos that you guys put out for, pre-need. It's been huge. That way I could focus on my day-to-day business and not have to worry about the Facebook. And, I kind of been had my hands full with Dan the Funeral Man on other platforms, but knowing that I could trust you guys to run with that has been huge.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your trust, and it's been fun, man. It has been a cool ride to watch this, and I remember just I mean it was like maybe 3.5 months
Yeah.
ago we had
Yeah.
a long conversation of like, okay, Dan,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen, man.
Yeah.
Patience,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden,
Huh.
boom, it happens. And once it happens, though, it's it it goes like it. I mean, I remember having the same
Mhm.
conversation with Catherine when
Yeah.
she had her first million view video. It was like nothing, few thousand, five
Yeah.
thousand, 6,000, 2,000, 6,000, boom, a
Yeah.
million. And it was like, oh shoot, now everything else that comes after it just pops. There is a negative side to it, and we talked a little bit about this at ICCFA of the pressure now, to where it's like, if I don't put
Yeah.
something out, I'm getting DMs of
Yeah.
like, "Hey, when's it
Right.
coming? When's it coming?" Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about, hey, it's great to
Yeah.
go viral, but also
Yeah.
there's a severity and a pressure that comes
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel it. It does take a lot of time. It's especially the time that I need to be watching my kids grow up, and I'm like trying to find content and trying to find the next viral video. And but just putting then that in perspective and let it not consume you, because it can. Especially once you have that success, it's like, oh, people are expecting it. And knowing that I don't have to post today, or like I can just wait. And fortunately for me is I haven't had to make a lot newer content on those platforms, because I was posting the same videos a year ago that no one watched, and now I'm reposting it. So like I have it in my vault that no one watched. Now it's getting thousands of views. So that's helpful for me right now. But yeah, just knowing how to control that, and also kind of be focused on my business too, because you kind of become consumed in a sense. And I about growing outward through social media, and you kind of might have the tendency to take your eyes off the ball of the business that is right in front of you, but you're like trying to grow for the future and on social, but like you need to focus on the now of the
Mhm.
funeral business, what's going on right now. So trying to juggle
It's
all
great.
that, this is happening so fast, so I'm still kind of working through all that, but I'm sure I'll get it together.
No, you will, and you're managing it great. But that's such great advice of like, it's great to be a content creator, but at the same time, like you do have a business to
Yeah.
run, and it's got to be valuable, and you're seeing the positive ROI from that. Um, I wanna look at one other thing. Well, maybe two, maybe two. number one, you said your kids. So a lot of people don't know it, but DTFM doesn't just stand for Dan the Funeral Man. It stands for Dan the Family Man. So tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about Dan the Family Man.
Yeah, so I have two kids, Michael, we call him Rusty, and Mabel. Mabel, I tagged her Mabel the mortician at birth. So my son doesn't like blood, so I'm not sure. Maybe he could just be a funeral director. But Mabel, she has no fear whatsoever. She found her way in the casket room a couple weeks ago, and so we'll see what happens there. And of course, my wife Claudia couldn't do this without her. She's got a business mind. I'm trying. Everybody wants to see her in the fashion. Everyone in the comments says, "Where's Claudia? We need to get her debut on the Fashion Urn Show." I'm trying to convince her. We'll see, but yeah, no, it's just enjoy spending time with the family. I always said that when I bought this funeral home, I wasn't going to live here and die here, that, my family was going to be the most important outside of Jesus, that I wouldn't miss that. So I try to be around with them as much as I can.
I absolutely love that. I respect that about you. And I'm excited because we've talked about the evolution of Dan the Funeral Man, and where do you go from here when it feels like you're at the pinnacle and you're getting
Mhm.
15 million views on
Yeah.
pink casket videos. Like, how do you keep that train rolling, and then how do we
Mhm.
adapt it to where the
Mhm.
virability and more of the engagement can, even like, what translates in the Facebook landscape, because it's different than TikTok and Instagram. And I think, there is an angle that we've talked about with your kids and
Mhm.
content, and looking at Dan the Family Man, as much as Dan the Funeral Man, that could be valuable, as well as, we'll let the cat out of the bag. Maybe
Yeah.
there's some live selling that happens. Maybe
Yeah.
there is reviews and
Yeah.
things like that happen, that translate to a different demographic inside of Facebook. Like, hey man, that core audience on Facebook grew up with QVC. Live selling may be the ticket. We don't know. So
Mhm.
there's some fun stuff coming down the pipe for Dan the
Yeah.
Funeral Man. But Dan, any
Yeah.
parting words for the people?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just appreciate everyone following and watching, particularly in the funeral home space. I mean, I'm very encouraged, being invited on your podcast, some other death care spaces for articles and podcast tribute technology. It wants me to be on their webinar, and this is one of these things to see that the funeral home space like embrace this and be excited about this type of content for the most part is encouraging me, because honestly, I didn't know how they would react. Like, what is this guy crazy? Like doing lip syncs and dancing and walking in on a convention floor with urns, and they're sharing them on their pages. Like, so to know that the funeral home death care space with technology companies and vendors and everything have embraced it and been excited about it is encouraging. And I wanted to thank everybody for the support.
Yeah, I love it. And fashionerns.com,
Mhm.
get you some merch,
Yeah.
Dan the
Yeah.
Funeral Man
Yeah.
merch. Dan will be hanging out in the
Yeah.
Disrupt Media booth for
Yeah.
sure at
Yeah. Oh yeah.
NFDA.
Absolutely.
You're definitely popping off in other places prior to then too. So Dan, thank you, man.
Yep,
Appreciate your trust
absolutely.
in us, and the willingness and the openness and transparency to come on and kind of share with us what you're doing, man. Because here's the thing: if you win, death care wins. And I tell every funeral
Mhm.
home that, like, the more vocal every funeral home can be about what you do day in and day out, how you serve, how you love, the product that you offer, the process of what happens when somebody dies. I mean, I still think one of the most applicable videos you've created is, it may not got the 15
Mhm.
million views, but it's like, what do you do if somebody dies at
Yeah,
home? Like,
right.
that's just a question that happens and people don't know. Like,
Yeah,
you're yes, you're entertaining, and yes, there's Dan the Funeral
yeah,
Man, and yes, there's fashion urns and pink caskets and leopard urns and leopard
yeah,
shoes, and there's a lot of
yeah.
like fun things. But at the same time, we can't forget about that you're also just educating. You're giving people the
Mhm.
information they need to be able to make informed decisions about death care services. And as you win, the entire profession wins. My plore is that there's 1,000 Dans that rise up and understand that there's content like this that can be created. There's 1,000 more Catherines, there's 1,000 more Caitlins, there's 1,000
Mhm.
more Sarahs, there's 1,000 more. Like we had a nice little kind of disrupt reunion at
Yeah.
ICCFA of our biggest content
Yeah.
creators hanging out, talking about ideas, collectively over 100 million views in the last like quarter of the
Mhm.
year. Like that's crazy, man. That's absolutely crazy. But that's 100 million views of people looking at death care the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. For
So
sure.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, Ryan.
All right,
Good
Dan.
chatting.
We'll see
We'll
you
talk
next
to you.
time. See you
Yep.
soon.
Later. All
Go
right.
go
Later.
Bucks.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Later.